Calling the roll for the Monday, July 8, 2024 Board of Control meeting. It is 11:01 a.m. We have Levine Ross serving as an alternate for Meredith Turner.
Present.
Councilmember Dale Miller.
Here.
Trevor Meckler serving as an alternate for Pernell Jones Jr.
Here.
Melanie Say serving as an alternate for Mike Dever.
Here.
Zoe Tasco serving as an alternate for Chris Renee County Executive.
Here.
Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for Michael Chambers Fiscal Officer and as chairperson.
Here.
Paul Porter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, if we can take a few minutes to review the minutes from the July 1st meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes? There are no corrections. I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item minutes approved. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Moving on to contract and awards.
First item, new items for review, BC 2024-506, Department of Public Works submitting an amendment to a contract with the Osborne Engineering Company for general mechanical, electrical, plumbing, architectural, and engineering services for the period June 17, 2020 through December 31st, 2024, to extend the time period to July 1st, 2025, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $200,000.
Good morning, Matt Reimer, representing the Department of Public Works. This is an amendment request for time and additional funds for our general design services contract with the Osborne Engineering Company in the amount of $200,000 and an extension of 6 months. This is to perform work that continues to be in progress at the Justice Center, Virgil E. Brown, Men's Shelter, and 1801 Superior facilities.
Thank you. Are any questions on this item?
Madam Chair, Mr. Reimer, could you clarify this line in the explanation where it says that while it's only a 6-month extension, the spend will begin once approved or over a calendar year?
Yes, to the councilman, I believe that response was in, that answer was in response to the question of, looked like the spend was over only 6 months and at a rate more than our usual spend on this contract. I was just clarifying in the response that we are currently at negligible funds left on the contract, but we still have 6 months of time duration on the current contract. So if approved, our amendment, the spend on the amendment would start now, which would give it a full calendar year of spend instead of just at the 6-month extension that's reflected in the amendment. Does that help?
So you're
okay.
saying
Yeah.
there's 6 months left in the current contract, but there's almost no money left?
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
fine.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thank
Next
you.
item.
Next item, BC 2024-507, Department of Public Works submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Train US Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $11,348 for preventative maintenance services of centrifugal chillers at the Jane Edna Hunter and Metzenbaum Center buildings, effective upon contract signatures of all parties for a period of 1 year, and submitting a contract with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, everyone. Tom Pavich, Public Works. This is a 1-year contract with Train. This is for preventive maintenance and services on the Train HVAC systems at the Metzenbaum Jane Edna Hunter building. And Train is the factory authorized dealer rep, and it's Train equipment that did the installation at those buildings.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Ross. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-508, Department of Public Works recommending an award on RQ 14232 and submitting a contract with RAM Construction Services of Cleveland LLC in the amount not to exceed $433,838.47 for sealant repairs at the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Justice Center.
Good morning, Matt Reimer again with the Department of Public Works. This is a construction contract award recommendation for repairs at the Juvenile Justice Center, specifically a significant portion of the exterior sealant, exterior window sealant, and exterior flashing sealant to combat ongoing water intrusion problems at that facility. Our design engineer was Wiss Janie Elsner. We are recommending acceptance of 2 alternate bid items with this project. The way we organized the bid form is we had a base bid scope, for things that we knew the contractors could perform, and then some alternate bid items where if the contractors had the means and methods to access those locations, to pick those up as well. So they had the ability to bid on those also. And so we're accepting 2 of those where the contractor provided bids for. We only had one contractor bid on this RFP, although we had 3 plan holders. And we were just over $20,000 of the engineer's estimate with the bids received. Relevant to the advanced questions, this contractor achieved the SBE goal. They exceeded the WBE goal, but they did not attain the MBE goal. But given that they are the only contractor bidding and a high priority project for us, we're recommending proceeding with the award.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, to Mr. Reimer. Did they achieve any MBE percentage, and if so, how much?
They did not, Councilman. It was 0, and their good faith effort wasn't, because they didn't submit a waiver and they couldn't document a good faith effort on that. They were judged non-sufficient on the MBE goal, but 0 was the attainment. In context, this contractor is an exterior building envelope contractor, highly qualified, and will likely be self-performing most of the work. Their SBE and WBE were on the electrical trade, which is a minor amount of the work, and on building materials, which is a significant portion of the work. But it's not a extensive multi-trade type of project.
So, did they go through the appeals process to get clearance to proceed despite the fact that they didn't reach the goal?
They did not, and that was at the direction of our department by the mere fact that they were the only bidder and the type of project that we're trying to enter into.
I thought any non-compliant bid had to get approval through the appeal. Is that not correct?
That's not my understanding, but I'll look to others to, if there's a more official opinion on that. I'm sorry.
I can offer some feedback on that from the purchasing perspective. If the department intends to make an award to a non-compliant vendor, we do require that the department notify Department of Equity and Inclusion, or DEI, of that decision. But in a scenario like that, there's not a requirement that they go to the reconsideration panel. In a case like this, as Mr. Reimer stated, there wasn't really a good faith effort demonstrated by the vendor, so the reconsideration panel wouldn't have a lot of evidence to reconsider. So sending them through that would kind of just be going through the motions, I suppose. The reconsideration panel is useful when vendors are seeking to demonstrate that they made an effort. And in this case, they were ruled compliant in 2 areas, but non-compliant in the 1 area. I don't see that changing had this gone to the panel.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Mr. McAleer?
Matt, who are they using for the SBE and WBE?
As proposed in their I'm going to get the forms wrong, in their submission, in their bid submission, it's River City Building Solutions and Signature Electric were the 2 primary subcontracts identified in their bid package.
The 2 vendors that didn't submit the bid, it looked like 3 people pulled the bid specs, but only 1 submitted.
Correct.
Were any of the other 2 MBE companies, just out of curiosity?
I will have to look, Trevor. I don't know. I know that one of them is not. One of them is the typical construction bid service called Builders Exchange. I believe they were one of the 3, so they're not a contractor. But the other contractor, I believe, was Western Reserve. But I can go back to the plan holders list and confirm and get you a response on if they haven't a minority designation attached to their contractor status.
And Paul, just to follow up from your comments, was Lenora okay with moving forward considering the background, and we only had 1 vendor, and they acknowledged that they didn't attempt to contract with an MBE?
I would ask Director Reimer, because there was an email sent, we don't
Oh,
require approval by DEI. So did you hear back from DEI?
Right, I
at all?
would never put words in her mouth like that, no. In this case, we notified purchasing and DEI that we were intending to move forward. This was our lowest and best recommendation when you factor in all the purchasing, technical, and then the DEI non-compliant factors. And given the nature of one bid received and the time-sensitive nature of the project in our minds, that's what influenced our decision to move forward. I provided the notification, but no, I did not ask for concurrence.
And from a purchasing perspective, we just require that that notification occurs. We don't require an approval from DEI in cases like this.
How long do you expect the work to be completed?
I'll go back to the contract, look at the actual, but I believe we'll be bleeding into spring of 2025 on some of this work.
This is one-time work though, right? It's not.
One-time
It's
work.
not based on any, like.
Correct.
Okay.
This is one-time work, yes. Sorry.
Are there any additional questions on this item? Hearing no additional questions, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2024-509, Department of Public Works, Division of Public Utilities, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to 21C LLC DBA Compass Energy Platform in the amount not to exceed $60,000 for consulting and management services for the development of the Euclid and Brooklyn microgrid projects effective upon contract signatures of all parties through February 28, 2026, and submitting a contract with said RFP exemption.
Morning, excuse me, Matt Ruby, Department of Public Works. So this one gets a little complicated, so I'm gonna do my best here. So the contract that's up for approval right now says it's up to $60,000. The RFP exemption is based on the fact that Compass was written into this federal grant that we received, so it triggered that section of the county code, hence the exemption. The contract itself is tied to the scope of work for which the federal government awarded the grant to us. However, it's being broke up into two phases. So this 60,000 is the initial phase to to be able to give Compass resources to work through the preliminary engineering phase of the Brooklyn and Euclid projects. At that point in time, and this is all documented in the contract itself, at that point, the project will be packaged and taken to county council for their review and approval based on the feasibility of the project moving forward. If the determination at that point is that it will move forward, the contract value will be increased to, it's a little over $700,000, which is the total piece of the federal grant that was written for Compass, but they have to do this preliminary work to unlock the rest of that, and county council will have the opportunity to weigh in on that.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Porter. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-510, Department of Public Works, Division of Public Utilities, requesting to amend Board Approval Number BC 2023-524, dated August 21st, 2023, which approved an award and an agreement with Cleveland State University to provide various legal and regulatory services for the Cuyahoga County Utility Microgrid Design Project and the Area Zone District Development Plan in the amount not to exceed $95,000, effective upon contract signatures of all parties, by changing the department name from Department of Sustainability to the Department of Public Works, Division of Public Utilities, and the end date from June 20th, 2024 to June 30th, 2024.
Matt Ruby, Department of Public Works again. So there's a couple pieces of what's going on here. So this contract with CSU is for work related to the Aerozone microgrid. We just executed a time-only extension for that, but in doing so discovered that all the documentation attached to the contract said June 30th, but the original BOC approval in error said June 20th. So this is correcting that, and also at the same time, this is one of a couple of contracts that, with the splitting of the Department of Sustainability and the utility going under Public Works, this contract is shifting over to the management of Public Works. So we included both of those here at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
To answer one of the advanced questions, I know this was included in the answer. A simple department change, we wouldn't require it to come back to the Board of Control. But because there's a date change associated with this, we wanted to correct the record on what, was originally executed, the documents that Matt referenced.
Any questions? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item?
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2024-511, Department of Development, recommending an award on RQ 14342 and submitting a contract with Kirtland Consulting LLC in the amount not to exceed $64,000 for consulting services for a 5-year Cuyahoga County Economic Development Plan 2024 through 2028 for the period July 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024.
Good morning. Paul Herdig with the Department of Development. We are bringing for approval a contract, came from a full request for qualifications process. We're engaging with Kirtland Consulting, which is led by Carolyn Taich, to support the administration and the Economic Development Commission with engagement by County Council and other stakeholders in doing a very thorough revision of Cuyahoga County's 5-year economic development plan. This will be the first time we've actually engaged a consultant and approached this as a true strategic planning process. We felt it was important to do this for a couple of reasons. One is we do have a new administration, but even more importantly, the new administration is conducting a countywide strategic planning process. This will be the economic development component of the countywide process. We had initially hoped to have the consultant engaged and have the work done by June 1st. That's the charter time set for submitting the plan every year. Unfortunately, the initial response to the RFQ was not sufficient. We had to go out for rebid. This did set us back a couple of months, and so we will not be completing this, obviously, by June 1st. That date is passed. We actually have an interim update of the plan that Council is going to discuss today at a hearing, but the full plan, this work will be done over the next several months. Council will be involved. We will certainly be briefing Council and bringing the full plan back to Council as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Yes. So is the plan that when the full plan is completed, that we would bring it back mid-year for county council approval?
Councilman, we certainly can. The charter doesn't really specifically provide for that, but we certainly fully intend to engage council, and I would have absolutely no objection if we're allowed to do that in doing that.
And what is the target date for the final consultant report?
Thank you, Councilman. We are looking now towards about October. The contract itself extends through December so that we're not hardwired into a final date, but we certainly are keeping this synchronized with the overall countywide strategic plan as well. So the summer and fall, early fall will be the times of activity.
Okay. And what areas do you think are most likely for us to see a change in the current plan that we've used with not too much amendment over the last 2 or 3 years?
Thank you, Councilman. Until we do the entire planning process, it's really hard to say where the specific areas of focus will be, so I don't want to get ahead of that. You know, at a very high level, support for small business, support for business attraction and retention, support for having a adequate workforce to support the needs of our business. These are all pillars of economic development. I can't imagine they won't continue to be strong priorities. But the fact is that over the years, the economic development plan has grown, and it now contains too many priorities, and we're going to have to use the planning process to sharpen the focus and have a reduced, smaller number of priorities that serious resources can get behind.
That makes sense from a strategic standpoint.
Are there any additional questions? Hearing no additional questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next, item BC 2024-512, Department of Information Technology, on behalf of the Department of Health and Human Services, Cuyahoga Job and Family Services, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to OPEX Corporation in the amount not to exceed $15,875 for renewal of hardware maintenance and software licensing on Model 72 and AS7200 scanner for the period April 6, 2024 through April 5, 2025, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Dennis Sullivan, Department of IT. This first exemption is due in fact to the dates. This does need to go back to April 6th. The reason behind the drive on the late submission is the state had mandated that they operate on a Windows upgrade to Windows 11 platform. It wasn't until later in the game and after discussion with the state that they allowed an exemption to continue on operating level they were. So this gets them to an exemption to the end of 2025 for JFS through the state. And JFS has indicated they're going to reevaluate this in mid-2025. But this PO order is for an IT standard. This is the operating system that has been recognized by the county that handles their mail processing and also their scanning and their envelope processing.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, to Mr. Sullivan. So then what operating system are we currently on?
They're on 10 now.
Okay, so we're gonna stick with 10 for a while.
They're going to stick until they reevaluate mid-2025 to see if the state budgets any further, I imagine, on the exemption to the end of 2025 and or have budgeting in place. This upgrade, I believe they said to that server net, this would be in the range of just less than $100,000 for them.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Hearing no additional questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next, item BC 2024-513, Department of Information Technology submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to SHI International Corporation in the amount not to exceed $86,439.61 for a joint cooperative purchase of various solar wind products, subscription services, maintenance, licensing, and support for the period July 28, 2024 through July 28, 2025, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Again, Dennis Sullivan, Department of IT. This joint co-op purchase provides the infrastructure management for managing all the network systems on the IT level. The dates are correct, the amount is correct, and it is a 1 year, and it is an IT standard.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Porter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next, item BC 2024-514, Department of Information Technology, on behalf of the Department of Public Works, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Integrated Precision Systems Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $12,839.26 for state contract purchase and installation of one access control panel system with 3 card readers, 2 video cameras, and related accessories for use at Domestic Relations Court, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Again, Dennis Sullivan from Department of IT. You've seen IPS POs many times. They are the surveillance and audio county standard throughout the county. And this in particular, this PO is for Domestic Relations Court related specifically to the magistrate's workspace.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next, item BC 2024-515, Department of Information Technology submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Melissa Data Corporation in the amount not to exceed $18,667.50 for the purchase of subscription services for various address verification software for a period of 1 year, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Again, Dennis Sullivan, Department of IT. The RFP exemptions in regards to the fact that it went out for informal bid twice. We only got 1 response, which was over $29,000. So close to a proximity of $11,000 more than we're presenting today. This software is used to validate addresses in the real property system. It's presently already used by the courts in the ERP system. And this will also, for an RFP exemption purpose, this will also possibly open us up to some future enterprise license agreement, a possibility.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Ross. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-516, Department of Information Technology submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Nexum Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $5,663 for the purchase of Palo Alto firewall and security software with support services for use by the Medical Examiner's Office for a period of 3 years and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Again, Dennis Sullivan, Department of IT. The Palo Alto platform is presently used in its CTO approval. It's used at the data center, and Nexum maintains all of that. So the firewalls that we're asking for now are specific to the medical examiner's office.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Porter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-517, County Prosecutor submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Carasoft Technology Corporation in the amount not to exceed $5,100 for the purchase of 6 Magnet Outrider forensic software licenses for use by the Internet Crimes Against Children Division for the period July 28, 2024 through July 27, 2025, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
David Ferteri, County Prosecutor's Office, Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Magnet Outrider is a triage tool that we use on scene for the extraction and analysis of data from the devices of child exploitation offenders. This is a renewal of those 6 licenses used by our forensic examiners and our investigators.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Say. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next
Thank you.
item.
Next item, BC 2024-518, County Prosecutor submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to M&J Technologies Direct Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $103,454 for a state contract purchase of additional NetApp storage, hardware, maintenance, support, and software licenses, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Josh Brower with the County Prosecutor's Office. This item represents the purchase of additional performance storage capacity and licensing for an existing NetApp storage system.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-519, Medical Examiner's Office submitting an RFP exemption which will result in award recommendation to Cleveland Laundry Services LLC in the amount not to exceed $87,500 for laundry services for the period July 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2027, and submitting a contract with said RFP exemption.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. This is for laundry services for the building. These are specialized cleanings. Obviously, the work that we do, there's extreme biohazards, and there are very few that companies that can actually do that kind of work in this area. The previous contractor that we did have had an accident at their facility. It's no longer available. So we were scrambling a little bit to try to get this put in place. We did attempt an RFP. We did not get a responsive return. We followed up with Cleveland. Apparently, they had had some issues trying to connect with us with that RFP. And so we went with this route once we had a discussion with them. Our backs are against the wall with trying to find a facility that can accommodate us.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Yes. How does the cost of this contract compared to what we were paying under the prior contract?
So we had seen an extreme rise in costs during post-COVID. This particular contract's a little bit less than the previous one, but it's significantly higher than we had experienced prior to COVID.
Any additional questions? Hearing no additional questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-520, Medical Examiner's Office submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Alexa Ray Ehlers in the amount not to exceed $28,000 for pathology assistant services for the period June 17, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, and submitting a contract with said RFP exemption.
You, Shannon, Medical Examiners. So in years past, as you are probably aware, we've had a significant shortage of forensic pathologists in the office. We lost 3 of our doctors to Columbus. Since September of 22, we've been operating at a significant deficit with that respect to our doctors. We're actually going to happily be in the opposite situation. We've got 2 fellows that had just started this month. We've got one of our new doctors coming on mid-month and another new doctor starting in August. So instead of operating with 6 forensic pathologists, we'll actually have 10, and that leaves us with a shortage of assistants in the autopsy suite. So much like we had done when we were down doctors and had brought on specialists by contract to try to fill in the gaps, we're kind of trying to do the same thing here. This is, again, another specialized skill. Folks who are working in the autopsy suite in our facility assisting the forensic pathologists have to be trained. They have to be certified funeral directors. So there's a limited amount of folks who can perform these services on our behalf. We're hoping to have discussions about adding an FTE in the next budget to accommodate. But right now, this was our best opportunity to make sure that we could handle all of the new medical staff. It's slightly late. We needed to start her a couple of weeks earlier than the doctors to get her training in so she understands the procedures in our building before the doctors came on.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Just a comment that I'm not comfortable with you saying that the reason why we pursued this as an exemption is that it was time sensitive. You know, if it's it should be anticipated and started sooner so that you can do an RFP and put it out to bid.
So time sensitivity was one of the factors that was in place. So my understanding is that contracted services such as this are eligible for exemption. But when we found out that we had hired new doctors, we started this process, actually, it was back in March, again, trying to find qualified, available personnel that were available during the time frame that we were looking at. Took us a significant amount of time. So I'm not sure where we would put out an RFP for these kind of individualized services. We tried using our contacts with the Funeral Directors Association in the county. Obviously, most certified funeral directors are working in funeral homes. So again, we're kind of stuck. We're kind of at the mercy of trying to keep casework moving along, knowing that we're going to have additional doctors starting this summer. This was our best solution to try to make sure that we didn't have an interruption in cases any longer.
It would seem to me that you could have done an informal bid.
So again, issuing a bid, I'm not sure where that would have taken place. So people who are qualified for this kind of work, much like the forensic pathologists, they go to school, they get their certifications. Funeral directors are, funeral homes are busy like we are. So the number of people who are available it's just very limited. I would say in some respects we did do it informally. We did interview several people. Most of them backed out. The requirements to do work like this by contract were prohibitive and expensive on their end. So trying to get the proper insurances. We appreciate the law department's work and help in trying to figure out, what kind of waivers we could get on some of those requirements. But they still needed their own workman's comp. They still needed the professional liability insurances. Like I said, we have been working on this for several months, and we came up with one and only one person.
If I could add to that from the purchasing perspective, I mean, we could potentially explore competitively soliciting stuff like this in the future. As Hugh did note, this is considered a valid exemption, like hiring somebody that has a specific license or training. That is something that can be voted on and approved as an exemption. So could this have been competitively solicited? Possibly. Did that make the most sense in this case? Not necessarily. I think we would have to look beyond the network of vendors and individuals that are registered to do business with the county to try and find folks that have this specific unique skill set. Even if we had competitively solicited, I think it's entirely possible that we would have ended up in a scenario where we had 0 or 1 responses, similar to when we were asked, this went out to 100 different companies or individuals, why did we only get 1 response? I would bet that this is a case where, reaching out through our traditional methods might not be the most appropriate thing.
Hugh, what requirements were waived in order to get the contract moving forward?
So usually when you're contracting with a normal vendor, there's a laundry list of kind of legal requirements to protect the county. I wouldn't even know where that list would begin. Heather and Jared were working, helping to work us through those.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the requirements. Which ones were waived to?
All but the professional liability and the workers' comp. I think some of them are like $1 million+ of coverage for, and that just didn't make sense for an individual like this. But
yeah, I just think that's relevant in terms of discussion related to 501 code changes, where that none of that's in the code, but it's a roadblock for vendors that want to do business with the county. We hear it a lot. So those are things that I think should be on the table when we're just discussing changes in order to make it more business friendly for vendors to do business with the county.
okay.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Ross. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2024-521, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in award recommendation to Downtown Cleveland Alliance and the amount of $10,037.84 for outdoor space rental for the Family Fun Day held on Gun Foundation on Public Square on August 6, 2024, and submitting a contract with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Marcos Cortez with Health and Human Services on behalf of Children and Family Services. Again, this is a contract with Downtown Cleveland Alliance for the DCFS Annual Family Fun Day to be held on August 6th. This event is to provide for fun activities, great resources from our county agencies and partners, and backpacks with school supplies to families. The resource fair makes it possible for county services to be accessible to all, highlight county programs, raise public awareness and understanding about the various services provided to the community, and engage in a positive and relaxed environment.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Yes, the description mentions the Gun Foundation. Where do they fit into this?
I believe that's what the public square, is the gun public square.
Oh, okay.
And actually, if I could, I think it's missing like Gun Foundation Green. We might want to correct that. Do you know, Marcos? Because it just says Gun Foundation on Public Square. I think there's a designation like Gun Foundation Green or Gun Foundation Plaza.
I don't
Do you
know.
recall what it is?
I'd have to look
Okay.
it up.
Cheryl or Jennifer, do you guys recall? I think that was in some of the backup documentation. Can we hold the vote on this one? Because
Sure.
I'd like to get that right in the caption. So
Okay.
can we come back to
Yep.
that one? I'll look it up in a minute here.
Yep.
That'll hopefully provide some clarification.
Yeah, that
Councilman
would,
Miller.
thank you.
Next item?
Next item, BC 2024-522, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to M&J Technologies Direct Incorporated, and the amount not to exceed $80,380 for a state contract purchase of 85 Microsoft Surface tablets, 20 Apple iPad tablets, and related accessories for graduating youth transitioning out of foster care, and submitting a purchase order with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Ramon Caldas, Health and Human Services on behalf of the Division of Children and Family Services. These are Microsoft and Apple tablets along with related accessories, which will be provided to graduating seniors that are aging out of care. This initiative is part of the agency's commitment to providing tools and resources to graduating seniors to support their path to self-sufficiency. Funding for this was secured through HHS levy and Title IV-E. However, it will be fully reimbursed by TANF-IL as this is part of their stipend. State contract was utilized for this procurement.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Just out of curiosity, why do we pick one or the other in terms of Microsoft Surface tablet and Apple iPad? What is there, do we ask the child, the kid that's graduating, transitioning out of foster care, which one he or she prefers, or how's that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's up to the preference of the child, whichever they feel more comfortable with.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item?
Next item, BC 2024-523, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, submitting an amendment to a contract with Osgood Group LLC for strategic planning consultant services and creating framework for the development of a 3-year strategic plan for the period December 5th, 2023 through December 31st, 2024, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2025, to expand the scope of services effective upon contract signatures of all parties, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $15,000.
Good morning again, Marcos Cortez with Health and Human Services on behalf of Invest in Children. Invest in Children recently completed a 3-year strategic plan with Osgood. The plan focused on how the Office of Early Childhood, Invest in Children can support the early childhood system today, as the landscape for children and families and providers has changed substantially, not only since the onset of the pandemic, but since the last strategic plan they did 10 years ago. Under this amendment, Invest in Children will continue to working with Osgood on operationalizing and implementing the strategic plan, which includes plan management, staff development, and researching and benchmarking best practices in other similar organizations.
Are there any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
We're going to go back to BC 2024 dash,
521.
and Paul said it says Gun Foundation Green
Correct.
on Public Square. So we're amending it to read,
Just to add the word green. And I confirmed that on their invoice, and there's a description on the clevelandpublicsquare.com website that the Gun Foundation Green is the expansive lawn area in the northern half of Public Square, to explain a little bit about why it's called that, I guess.
I'll make a motion for approval as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
next item is first item exemption BC 2024-524, Department of Public Works recommending an alternative procurement process which will result in a participation agreement with the City of Brecksville Purchasing Consortium in the amount not to exceed $30,000 for the purchase of sodium chloride rock salt for the period November 1st, 2024 through October 31st, 2025.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works. This is the annual procurement for salt for the upcoming winter season, 2024-2025. This is the participation agreement with the City of Brecksville. We're one of 12 members with the City of Brecksville Purchasing Consortium. It's a buying group. We leverage combining all of our salt needs. We bid it out every 2 years, and we're amending this year. The vendor that provides the salt to the county is Cargill. They've been a longtime business partner with the consortium as well as the county. Prices from last year, winter season, to this year jumped just 4%. So,
Any questions on this item? Hearing no questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
thank you.
Opposed? Item approved. Moving on to consent agenda items.
Consent agenda items are BC 2024-525 through BC 2024-528.
We can take a second to review the consent agenda items. Are there any questions on the consent agenda items? Hearing no questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Say. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Any additional items?
No other business?
Any public comment?
No public comment?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Say. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.